Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's AMA on Managing AI and Intelligent Agents in Windows, part of the Tech Community Live. We're excited to have you join us for this interactive session. This is your chance to ask us any questions about AI features and intelligent agents in Windows. Post your questions in the chat. We'll answer as many as we can live, and the thread will remain open through Friday for follow-ups. My name is Ling Tong. I'm a principal product manager on the Windows servicing and delivery team. I'll be your host for today. And joining me are three amazing experts, Aria, Jesse, and Eric. They introduce themselves and share a bit about their roles.
Hey all, I'm Aria. I work on Windows Servicing and Delivery, and I have the honor to get to work on things like Windows updates and managing AI components, whether agents, connectors, models, and the like.
Hi, I'm Eric Moe, and I work on Aria's team. I work with commercial customers, understanding their needs when it comes to managing, deploying, doing everything with AI agents on Windows.
And last and least, I am Jesse Bishop, Principal Product Manager for the Windows Developer Platform, and I work on areas including AI extensibility for agents on Windows.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, everyone. Let's dive into your questions. I'll start with first recapping some of the announcements at Ignite recently. Aria, Eric, or Jesse, would you like to take that recap?
I could go first because I was actually at Ignite and was part of the Windows booth that demoed a bunch of these features. I think some of the more exciting things that we announced were some deeper integrations with AI and AI agents on Windows, including things like a write assist, where if you have an application today that has text as input, without needing to rewrite the application or add any application extensions, we can use AI to help you rewrite the text that you put into that application. So if it's like a work order, for instance, you want to make it sound more professional, you could just right click and rewrite it professional and replace the text in there. We also showed things like enhancements to Click to Do, where you can copy a table directly into Excel and do management of the data in Excel natively. We also have long-running agents that can run on the taskbar, like Researcher and M365 Copilot. So you can watch in the taskbar as things are happening while you're multitasking, doing other things, and it will let you know when it's ready or if it needs other input. And one of the other things that I thought was really cool was we've made a lot of enhancements to natural language interaction with Windows, including the ability to talk to Copilot, talk to it naturally and be able to interact with it, but also with Narrator coming back with a really nice human sounding voice versus that very mechanical, think of the 1990s Narrator where it really sounds like a machine talking to you. Now it sounds more natural and it's much more pleasant to listen to.
Wow, that's so awesome. Thank you so much, Eric, for that recap. I'm really excited for all of those features that will be coming out. And so for any additional information on Ignite announcement, please refer to aka.ms/ignite 2025/evolving windows. So I'm going to start with taking some of the questions that we have from the audience. The first question is, can you explain what an AI agent is? How is that different than a feature? Can we use policy to enable or disable it?
Yeah, I can take that one at least at a high level. An AI agent is, a software system that can, we say, perceive its environment in some way and then make decisions and then take action to achieve things for people, often using like tools or AI models like machine learning models that could be on your device or in the cloud. And so I know that's a very high level abstract thing. And so we have some examples in Windows even itself, like for example, the search agent, if you're on Windows 24 H2, Windows 11, and have the right updates and you've enabled it for your organization, if applicable, you can go and actually try out the new search experience in Windows, which can help you like semantically express what you're trying to do, and it'll help users, change settings. And we think this makes people, more productive, and it makes it easier to find settings because, as we all know, there's a lot of settings to configure and manage in Windows. And so we think, these actually help people more easily do that. And so, people can also create their own, obviously, agents. Microsoft has several, SDKs and developer platform things, as well as the rest of the industry, in order to make agents that run on Windows or in the cloud. And so, the management of the things in Windows, we do have policies for those. Like, for example, you can see the AI and click to do or the recall feature or things like that, which we're happy to talk more about. So anything that's a feature of Windows itself, like an agent can be a feature of Windows, we do have management for that. And then anything that, your organization or an app that you've installed, it may have its own policies to manage that as well, just like you would with any other app today.
Okay, thank you so much, Jesse, for that explanation. The next question that I have is, how do I hear about and try new AI features on Windows so we can evaluate them for our business?
Yeah, great question. So I think one of the biggest things we hear is how can I test it early? How can I control it? And how can I make sure I'm turning it on and deploying it correctly within my organization? So the first step I always tell people is bookmark aka.ms-windows roadmap. This is a very valuable link to go and see what's coming and what's currently available. So all the things, for example, that we announced tonight, all the things that are currently flighting in the Windows Insider program, and the things that are currently being rolled out, and when they'll be rolled out to your organization. Since typically we actually roll things out fully to consumers or unmanaged devices before they're turned on for commercial entities. Now, once you do that, the next thing I'd recommend is having a few of your IT devices, depending on the scale of your department, in the Windows Insider program. So that if you join the dev channel, you can actually test out a lot of the features that are coming. And whenever we do AI features or improvements, they're going to the Windows Insider channel first so that we can validate them, test them, honestly make sure that they're both meeting the needs, don't have bugs, and take a lot of feature feedback from those previews. If you want to give feedback even more directly, you can join the Windows Customer Connection program to give us that feedback. You can do that by going to aka.ms-join community, which will enable you to actually get started and engage with real engineers like everyone on this call to give us that feedback directly before we even ship that feature to retail. And then finally, the thing you can do is monitor tech community. You found this here. You're getting the AMA here. This is a great source of information. We post blogs on things that are coming, on the new features being released, and most importantly, how you can control them. We know that control for AI is extremely important now more than ever. And so we talk about things like security in those blogs, how they're running in containment. We talk through, hey, some new features are actually off by default for commercial. How do you enable them? We talk through the different policies that there are to control the different features, since some features have more controls than others. And we talk through the new agentic controls that we have for controlling agents, connectors, and workspaces.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that explanation, Aria. The next questions that we have is, what makes a Copilot Plus PC different from other devices?
All right, so I'll take that one because we actually did a hands-on lab last week at Ignite specifically about a Copilot Plus PC. So if we start from the silicon and work our way up, easiest way to think about what makes a Copilot Plus PC different from other PCs is it's built for security in mind. So we have Pluton processor, secure processor, does cryptographic things on that processor without requiring a discrete TPM that's sitting off to the side. It has an NPU, which is a neural processing unit, and that is what allows us to run local AI models. The small language models are running in Windows. So we could do that on-device processing. It's much more effective and battery efficient to use that NPU and allows for a lot of offline scenarios for these AI features. Building on the security as well, we support the Windows Hello enhanced sign-in security because we're encrypting the credentials that are passed from the biometric sensor all the way to the Pluton processor. We have minimum RAM requirements and minimum disk requirements to make these overall really, really good devices. I'm using one right now. In fact, it's a great device, really long battery life with it. So it's absolutely wonderful to have. It's also great for demonstrating specific features as well. If you don't mind, I will see if I can demonstrate one of the agents that Jesse was speaking about just a moment ago. So I'm going to share my desktop, or at least try to share a screen here. Let's see if this works here. We are going to go to this screen. There we go. And hopefully, if this is working, there we go. One of the agents that we have that's running here on my Copilot Plus PC is a settings agent. And you think about in settings when a user is trying to find something, when we used search before, sometimes you had to be very precise in terms of what keywords you're looking for. And we said we can do a lot better. We can make it easier to find things, but also why not make it so that if I'm searching for something, why don't I make the setting itself instantly appear in the results? So let me show you what I mean. So we're going to try something. My mouse pointer is too small. And you would think that the first thing it would do is just bring me to the page about mouse pointer. But actually, the first thing it brought me to was, why don't I just adjust my mouse pointer right here and apply that change directly to it? So now users can easily find what it is they want to do. If I want to add a Bluetooth device, don't just take me to the page. Let me add a device right here through the settings. And that's just all through this intelligent search agent that we have in settings, and just one of the things that we have here on our Copilot Plus PCs.
That was such an awesome demo, Eric. I love the use case of settings agent. I'm excited to hear more on any other upcoming features for settings agent. All right, and so I think we have the next question. Are there AI features for regular Windows devices? I know we just talked about Copilot Plus PC, and Eric, you did a demo on that. But what about regular devices that are not Copilot Plus PC?
So that depends on the device and also depends on what you're running. Obviously, depending on your device, you have different levels of GPU, NPU, and CPU that are available for your different usage. For example, if you're running certain gaming devices, your GPU is actually probably phenomenal. If you're running Win365 VMs in the cloud, you actually have a huge amount of GPU. And if you're running certain older devices, you probably have very limited capacity, whether in CPU or GPU. Depending on these things, you have different capacity for just running anything on your system at one time. And different of these silicon or chips enable you to run different of the processes more effectively without taking out basically the rest of what your computer is able to do. And that enables you to run different things. Now, anything that's labeled a Copilot Plus feature, those are limited because we check to make sure it's a Copilot Plus device before you run it. However, certain agents or files are able to be run on any Windows device. For example, if you have GitHub Copilot, you can run that on any device. Now that's using cloud models, but you can actually download some models to run locally on any Windows device as well and use it on your device. Now, that could have different ramifications to your battery and to your functionality, so always is recommended to make sure that you understand the use cases there. Something really cool that we actually announced tonight as well is your ability to run some of these things on Win365 VMs, which I think is super exciting. That's a good example of these running on the GPU rather than necessarily purely on the NPU. And so more is coming in all of these spaces. And obviously, this also depends on how you define AI. Since if you look at things like just heuristics or things like simple models, Windows has had AI in it for years, especially coming from the update space. We actually use AI to determine when to do updates for certain things. It's just we would never have called it that previously because it's more simplistic heuristics or other different models that we're using, then enabling you to run your own agents or features or some of these more complex tasks, which require higher amounts, frankly, of both power and processing.
Awesome.
I don't know, Jesse or Eric, if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
No, that sounds right. I'll just say also, there's obviously the agent assistant apps that are more sort of cloud powered, like Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot and similar apps. So that's the nice thing about agents is they're not necessarily bound to the cloud or local devices. And so the real goal here is that just in general, we're trying to help people be more productive with agents. And so, they can equally run in the cloud. And that's exactly what apps like Copilot do to take advantage of the scale of, the cloud. And so, similarly, we see organizations building a lot of agents that can either run locally or in the cloud. That way you get, there goes my light. You get value out of both, Copilot Plus PCs and the features that can run locally as well as, those that run more remotely.
We did a nice demo also at Ignite where we showed some things that were being processed locally and then being handed off to the cloud to complete the process. An example being Click to Do, being able to convert a table from anything, whether it's a PDF or just something that's being shared on the screen, right into Excel, but then using Copilot in Excel to then say, all right, I want to take this data and build a graph from it, build some visualization that helps me understand this data. And so it's this like continuum of a hybrid experience where some things are being processed locally and others are being brought to the cloud. But from an end user perspective, we want to make that as seamless as possible, right? So that it feels like a natural progression. Oh, I've copied this into Excel. I'm now going to do this. And the user doesn't need to worry about where it's happening. It just happens for them.
Okay, awesome. Anything else that folks want to add? Should we move on to the next question? Great. So the next question that we have from the audience is, obviously all of these AI features are so exciting. The space is evolving so fast. How is Microsoft ensuring that AI features run securely in Windows?
Yeah, this is an area that we spend a lot of time thinking about, probably all of us here, as well as a lot of the people listening to the call. And, there's a lot of even new novel types of security risks we see with agents and AI features, things like, cross-prompt injection attacks, where you can actually embed content in, documents that can help override the prompts to language models and do things that, you didn't necessarily intend. And so it's not even just about something that's malware. It's actually about sort of those cross agent attacks that we're starting to see. And so we do have a lot of things that Windows itself is trying to do, as well as Microsoft. And I believe we have a blog link we could share here, aka.ms/secure agents on Windows. And so this is a blog post from the CVP of Windows Security. And so they kind of outline some of the things that Windows itself is doing to help protect people and organizations from some of these, novel types of threats, and where we think security should be going for agents in general. So it talks a lot about things like, having distinct agent accounts or identities for some of these agents, and so that, you have the observability and ability to know what is an agent doing, just like we would want to know that for a user. That way we can also limit the privileges, follow sort of least privilege principles in order to make sure that agents are only able to do the things we want them to do. Operational trust. So, we need to make sure that things are at least ones that, we want to trust are signed and, sort of have a certificate that is chained to a root authority we trust, just like we would for an app or anything else like that today. We also obviously have the Microsoft privacy guidelines and responsible AI standards, which have been published and they're linked in the blog as well. And so, we try to make sure that all of the Microsoft agents and all of the ones that our platforms help support are following those privacy preserving design principles. And there's a few other things in the blog that I think are probably good for everybody to read. So I definitely recommend taking a look at that.
Thank you so much, Jesse. And so going back to Settings Agent, Eric, your demo on Settings Agent was super cool earlier. What Windows agents are there, and what are the best arguments to advertise Copilot plus PC to higher management?
So I'll take the second half of that question, and I'll maybe let Jesse handle the other agent question. But in terms of Copilot plus PC features, there's a couple other really compelling features that I think help sort of land what the value prop is there. One of them is I'm using it right now, and that's called Studio Effects. And the way Studio Effects works is that it interacts with my camera and it sends image processing to the NPU to do things so that it doesn't bog down my CPU. And, I bet most of you have gone through the experience of I blurred my background. Now my CPU fan is ready to launch my PC into orbit because it's just taking so much compute to do that. And putting everything onto the NPU really helps keep everything fresh and moving. My machine has a great battery life while I'm using it. But it adjusts the lighting, it can adjust my eyes, the camera can follow me if I so choose, do different types of portrait background blurs, etc. And it's not just isolated to Teams, it's using my camera. So any video conferencing that I'm using could take advantage of those Studio Effects. And then there's another great feature that is exclusive to Copilot plus PCs, and that's Click to Do. And if I demonstrate that really quick, because sometimes it's easier to show it than to actually try to describe it with words. So I'm going to share out my desktop one more time. And what I have here is the blog that Jesse was just referring to. And you can imagine that this could either be a website, a PDF, maybe somebody is sharing this in a meeting. And I want to use what's called click to do, which when I run it, it allows me to reason over the screen. You saw it kind of turn a purplish color. And now when there's text on the screen, I can right click and get some options here. Once it catches up, there we go, where I could perhaps rewrite what I see, create bulleted lists, summarize, or even start a new draft in Copilot or in Word using Copilot. So it allows me to sort of interact with not only text, but also with images as well. So if I escape out of here and go to an image that's on here, can also interact with the image that's on here. So I could perhaps want to copy the entire image, but also I get OCR. So I can actually pull the text out of an image as well and copy it or use it to rewrite or start another thought there. I don't have the convert to table yet into Excel. I need to get a newer version of Excel because it's still in preview. But those are just some of the things that you can do with a Copilot Plus PC that I think, enable new ways of working with devices. It allows me to do things I couldn't do otherwise.
I also think the biggest part of the Copilot Plus PC, anytime you're looking at device refreshes for your organization, the biggest things are cost and value of what is this new device going to be able to enable me to do that's different, and is it worth the difference in cost that it might have? When I look at Copilot Plus PCs, the biggest reason I consider them for refreshes or encourage organizations to do so is first, the battery life and performance. It's just better. Whether you're going with the x64 devices with Intel and AMD, or you're going with the ARM devices, which have a crazy long battery life, you're going to see better performance in battery life than you have in any of the other Windows 11 devices. The other big reason is going to be the fact that you're getting more of that processing power we talked about earlier. You're able to offload more onto this other chip, the NPU, leaving you higher capacity in your GPU and your CPU, which means that you can literally do more or process more on your device while using less of your battery. And so that's really the fundamental value, is you're paying for better battery life, better performance, and the ability to run more things on your device, which is going to be more and more true, whether that's the AI features Windows builds, whether that's the agents you're running on it that are produced by us or by yourself or other third parties.
Yeah, we also have a link, I think, that goes over some of the other features in Windows that you can use as an end user on a Copilot Plus PC, like the AI-focused features. So we can share that link here, aka.ms/Windows AI features. Some good end user stuff there. I love all these things that we've been talking about that are great for sort of out of the box experiences, but being a developer platform person, I also can't let it pass without saying one of the other major benefits that you get with a Copilot Plus PC is the ability to write your own apps and agents. And so we actually have a great developer platform that helps you do that and run some of these models for your own tasks. So not just things built into Windows or things that Microsoft or other companies create, but you can actually build your own. And so, we have the Windows, Microsoft Foundry on Windows, we call it. And so this is very similar to how you might do it in Azure, but on your local device. So when you have a Copilot Plus PC, you can actually run these things yourself. And so Windows has a set of APIs, the Windows AI API surface, we call it, and a bunch of things that you can actually use as plug and play functionality in your apps, as well as the ability for you to pull in models and use them, popular models as well as some that Microsoft distributes. We have Windows ML, which helps you, run against, like we were saying earlier, the NPU or GPU or CPU, whatever's right for your devices. Obviously, NPU, if you have a Copilot Plus PC, is often the best for the reasons Arya and folks have mentioned around power and sort of efficiency and just the ability to run these models. And so we actually have some examples of that. For example, the AI Dev Gallery app, which you can find in the Microsoft Store, and that gives you sort of a tour of some of the developer platform features that you can start to use and play with in your own apps as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Arya, Eric, and Jesse, for hosting the panels today and answering the Q&As that have come in. We appreciate the engagement and your questions from the audience. If we didn't get into your questions, the Q&A thread will open through Friday. Please keep the conversation going. And thank you for joining. Next up will be the AMA about Windows Backup and Restore.